two legends, two icons. Let's talk about it.
There's always drama. People always,
Dramatics.
dramaticing.
Dramaticking. That's all right.
Don't you think?
If it wasn't for Tony,
What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm coming back with a new video. It's a new month. It's my birthday month. And I decided to switch things up. And I want to do a video about the Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston debate. And I know a lot of you might be like, but most of y'all know where I'm coming from with this. Where I feel like Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston are two of the top artists, female artists in general. And when people think of the pinnacle or the peak of singing ability, Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston are always brought up. These award shows and tributes, and when people audition for American Idol and The Voice and America's Got Talent, their songs 7 times out of 10 are going to be used because they are the pinnacle, they are the peak when it comes to vocal ability, singing ability, right? Especially in their prime. I know a lot of y'all might be like, okay, but why you want to do this video? I want to do this video because y'all know how I stay getting inspired, right? A couple of weeks ago, I did a video about what happened to female R&B. And in that video, I discussed Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston, Aaliyah, Beyonce, Mary J. Blige, and the shifts in female R&B from like the 80s to the 90s, 2000s to now. And, Mariah Carey was a popular topic in my comment section. And, people were talking about Whitney Houston too. But then there was this thing where I noticed like Mariah Carey fans and Whitney Houston fans were like going back and forth. And y'all know, as a YouTuber, I get every notification, even if it's people replying to each other. And even till like a few days ago, I kept getting notifications of Mariah Carey fans or Whitney Houston fans going back and forth. And when you go on certain Mariah Carey videos or Whitney Houston videos or the videos of them together, there's a stand war. Like, y'all thought Nicki Minaj versus Cardi B was something? Y'all thought the Aretha Franklin versus Patti LaBelle was something? Even the whole Beyonce versus Aaliyah thing. Mariah Carey versus Whitney Houston, when it comes to like the fans and the fighting and that's something. That's really something.
We're all just living in the moment of being positive, and there's like people called haters. No.
Oh my God.
People comparing their vocal ability and their vocal talents. Who's the better singer? Who's the better belter? Who had the better range? And this and that and da. And then, it gets really out of hand. And I tell you, even on Twitter, YouTube comments, a lot of different things, a lot of different social media places, I see this debate happening. Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey were artists who always got their flowers as the years went on. Now, I feel like going into the 2000s, the 2010s, that's when the flowers started getting a little stale, and they became memes and jokes, and people was joking about Whitney and her situation. Y'all know what I'm talking about. People were talking about Mariah and her situations and their declining vocal abilities and everything like that. So I'm here to give them some fresh flowers because after a while, flowers do get crusty and the petals drop off. So this was just one of those days. I'm just giving them some fresh flowers and talking about them in a way where it's like, there really is no need to debate. There really is no need to compare them and who's better, who's this, who's that. Even back then and even now, I see it. So I'm like, let me give my 2 cents. And I want to see what y'all think about this. Mariah Carey first debuted in 1990, there was discussion and talks of like, because Whitney Houston was like the top artist when it came to like, female vocals, R&B vocals, and it's like her singing ability, her belting, her range, her melisma, her everything, right? But here comes Mariah Carey in 1990 with
Wait a minute, hold on.
Vision of Love. And she's belting and hitting this whistle note. I know Mariah Carey with the whistle note, her signature, right? So then now, it was this thing where, Whitney Houston had released her album, I'm Your Baby Tonight, and she was always getting asked about Mariah Carey like this.
Last week we had Mariah Carey here in the studio.
You did? How is she doing?
Well, she was doing great.
Oh, great.
Yes.
It's great.
What I'm curious about, what do you think of her?
What do I think of her?
Yes?
I don't think of her. I don't think of her. Musically, what do I think of her?
Yes.
I think she's a good singer.
Right.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
People could take that as like, you know, shade or her Whitney Houston being snarky. But you think about it, Whitney Houston is Whitney Houston. It's 1990. She's trying to promote her album. And, you know, the man was being a little messy, like, oh, what do you think about Mariah Carey? And she's like, why would Whitney Houston be thinking about Mariah Carey? They haven't even met at this point, right? I'm pretty sure she have heard of her. She know, like, you know, let's be real. This is a music industry. You have to know who your competition is, right? But it's like she wasn't running around thinking about Mariah Carey every day. She was, oh, what she thinks about her singing ability? She's a good singer, but I don't go around thinking about Mariah Carey. I don't even know her. I heard her song on the radio. I saw the music video, but I don't know her like that to think about what is Mariah Carey doing right now. You know, like that's the whole thing. Where even back then, throughout time, there's like when there's one, there's always gonna be like okay, who's next? It's just like, man, why can't people just be celebrated and have success at the same time? Where it's like, who's better? Who's gonna get the number one? Who's gonna sell more? But that's the music industry for you. But I love how later on down the line, when they met and they actually worked together, they realized that it was nothing but love, and the whole feud and beef was really by the media.
Let's get that straight, okay?
And let's not forget, their record labels had such a control over them. Y'all know Clive Davis and Whitney Houston. If y'all don't know, really look it up, because Clive Davis had a hold of Whitney Houston, her image and how he wanted her to dress. And y'all know Whitney Houston was from Newark, New Jersey, and she was like a real, but he had her in these nice gowns and it's not to say that just because you from a certain area that you can't dress nice and stuff, but Clive Davis wanted to present a certain image of Whitney Houston that really wasn't her, and then that led to the backlash of her being whitewashed and da 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 da. Most of y'all watching this will know about that situation. Then Mariah Carey with Tommy Mottola, and that's, I'm telling you, this could be an hour-long video, but I'm trying to break it down real quick. Somebody needs to make a video about Tommy Mottola, like really getting down deep into like his evil business and everything he did behind the scenes, because he had problems with Mariah Carey, with Michael Jackson. Tommy Mottola, something else. All the control that Tommy Mottola had over Mariah Carey. Now, he gave her freedom in a way where it's like she could write the songs and sing how she wanted to, but he was very selective. Like, oh, I want you to do this, I want you to wear this, he had such control over her too. So when Mariah Carey finally came out with the Butterfly album, and she came out with the Honey single, and you can see the music video, you can see like this freedom. So it's just like, I feel like, and that's around the time when afterwards, I think that's when she met Whitney Houston and they did When You Believe. So you could just see a lot of this beef and feud and drama has to do with, and this is before social media, so it wasn't like the fans were putting them against each other. There was no social media for them to even see. I mean, magazines, but that's not the same as going on Twitter, Instagram, and seeing people talking about who's better, who's this, who's that. It was all the media. Similar to like a Tupac Biggie type situation, but you know, y'all know what I'm talking about. It's different, but it's not. But let's talk about how Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston both have extensive catalogs. They both have hits that stick like grits. Y'all know what I'm saying? Like, they both have those classics under their belts. And it's like great to look back and listen back and just get the nostalgia of like, remember when this song first came out, and just even back into the, you know, in the 90s and in the 2000s. But I just remember like Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston, even growing up, they've always been like a soundtrack to my life and other people's lives, where you hear a certain song, especially the ones that you were born for to hear, right? Because I was born in 95. Some people was born earlier, later, but Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston, they always have those songs that are nostalgic, that are a piece of history, right? And I love how even when Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey would talk about it, they would talk about how
When we sit down and we go through music, we really go through it. We don't play, you know what I'm saying? We listen for great melodies, great lyric, songs that'll stay in the hearts of people for 20 years down the road, you know what I'm saying?
And another thing I want to bring up is, in this debate with the whole Whitney Houston versus Mariah Carey thing, a lot of people would get on Whitney because she didn't write her own songs, and most of her 90% of her catalog was written for her. Whereas Mariah Carey, we know she was writing the songs, producing the songs, you know, arranging the vocals. And Mariah Carey is a top songwriter, top lyricists. She's even in the Songwriters Hall of Fame. So a lot of people like to knock Whitney down a peg, like, oh well, she can't write her own music. She didn't write her own music. Oh, people did it for her. Blah, blah. And it's just like, now in this debate, it was like, well, what is a true musician that doesn't write their own music? But my thing is, even like in certain cases, like, you know, Aaliyah never wrote her own music. She had people writing for her, but she was able to express to them certain ideas that led to the song. And then another thing is, this is a thing of like being a performer of the song, being an interpreter of the song, where you could take any lyrics, take any arrangement, but it's how you sing it, how you perform it, that affects the success of it. Anybody could have took Dolly Parton's "I Will Always Love You" and redid it. But look how Whitney Houston did it. Anybody could have did a cover of that, but did they do it like Whitney Houston? Anybody could have did a cover of "At Your Best" by the Isley Brothers, but did they do it like Aaliyah? You know what I'm saying? It's how you take the song, and they each had their own character. They each added character to the song. So in essence, it's really about how you perform the song. Now, if you have the ability to write the song lyrics and produce it and arrange it, that's a plus. That's even better. And if y'all really know about the music business, that's more money for you because you wrote it, produced it, right? But I feel like even though Whitney Houston didn't write the majority of her music, the way she sung the music was just outstanding, to the point where it didn't matter. And you really think about it as listeners, right? The average listener, they don't really care about like who wrote the song. Now that's a fun fact, like, oh, Mariah Carey wrote this, oh, such and such wrote this song and they sung it like this. But you know, and I don't want to say it like that, but that's a general thing, right? And respect to all the songwriters throughout time who has wrote some of the biggest hits and even some of the best album cuts that don't really get the most attention, like, you know, the radio singles of certain artists. But it's like, songwriting is a huge part, because without the songwriters, without the lyricists, there is no song, right? But I feel like an artist's true talent shouldn't be judged on his songwriting ability. That's just an extra skill that they have in their arsenal, if they have that ability to write great songs. And Mariah Carey is one of those artists who had that ability, and she still has that ability. And another thing I wanted to discuss, and I'm seeing this a lot more often when it comes to Mariah Carey and the, you know, questioning her blackness, because there's a lot of people that's like, you know, when I see these different tweets and like records and like, you know, statements about, oh, the first black woman to do this, the first black woman to do that, these 4 black women were the first to do this, and a lot of people are like, Mariah Carey is black, Mariah Carey is not black, Mariah Carey is black. This may be controversial regarding Mariah Carey, but it depends on how you take it and how you say it. I have to say, and I'm pretty sure a lot of y'all will agree with me with this, most of y'all will, right? But growing up, I always thought that Mariah Carey was white. Because let's be honest, Mariah Carey is white passing. That's not anything against her. It's just, you know, she looks, growing up as a little kid, you see her on TV, you wouldn't think she was, you know what I'm saying? Like, she was white passing. But that's nothing against her. That's her genetics, that's her DNA. Nobody's asked to be born the way they are. Nobody asked to come out into the world looking how they look. It is what it is. And like I said in a tweet where I was replying to somebody saying something about this, Mariah Carey, I didn't even know until like 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when I like randomly looked up one of her songs, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I looked up her bio of her, and it said, oh, her father is black. And I was like, oh, so Mariah Carey is biracial, she's mixed. But I always thought that she was like white. I don't know. You know,
Wait a minute, hold up.
because you know how certain biracial people have that look of like, oh, like Alicia Keys. I'm pretty sure people wouldn't question Alicia Keys' blackness because she has that look where like you could tell she's part black. But Mariah Carey, on the other hand, has more of a certain look where it's like most people wouldn't even figure it out unless they looked it up. And then, but like I said before in my tweet, that doesn't take away her talent and her success. no matter your genetics, your DNA, you know, how the Punnett square came out for you, dominant genes, recessive genes, it don't matter. That doesn't take away her success. That doesn't take away her talent. No matter if she was Asian, she was black, she was Puerto Rican, it don't matter. What matters is the songwriting ability, her singing ability, that whisper note.
Wait a minute, hold on.
That whistle note, combining all that together to create over 30 years of this amazing catalog of music. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes it's like, it don't matter if she was, no matter what ethnicity, what race she was, or what she mixed with, what really matters is what she laid down in the studio. And that's it. And when it comes to the discussion of blackness in the music industry and how that affects an artist and colorism, I'm not saying anything against that because that's a true thing, right? Colorism in the music industry is a big deal. It was a big deal. But when you take the colorism aspect out of it and you just have the songs, you have the voice, you have the music by itself without even knowing how she looked, I feel like it still would have been great music that would have did well, that would have been successful, that would have went #1, that would have sold millions, that would have won Grammys. Because at the end of the day, it's the music that really matters. Now, there's behind the scenes politics and everything like that that really helps with a song success and artist success. But when you stripped everything down, the music was great. And it still is 20 years later, 30 years later, 10 years later. So, you see what I'm saying? And this is just me giving Whitney and Mariah hello?
I was like, why are you so obsessed with me?
But, like I was saying, I feel like over the years, Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston have like, they're still respected, they still get their, you know, they're just due their praise, but I feel like there's been a thing where they've become memes, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I feel like it's that thing where, like, you know, these classic, legendary, iconic artists, as the years go on and new generations come, they're still respected, they still gain new fans. Similar in a way to, like, you know, like Michael Jackson, Aaliyah, and Prince, but I feel like the respect is kind of dwindling along with the praise. And over the years, both of them have been subject to like humiliation and degradation.
And that pisses me off.
And especially Whitney, you know, towards, you know, like the end of her life, we know her declining vocals because of everything and her voice and performances, and even Mariah Carey with like the whole lip syncing scandals and how, you know, certain performances were like a little, you know, shaky, and then they both become memes and people joke about them all the time. Trash enough, sadly enough, people even be making jokes about Whitney Houston and her death, and it's like the whole black humor is people just be laughing. I'm just like, wow, people really. I'm like, what is the world coming to? Like, and Whitney Houston's not the only one, but I feel like along with her and Aaliyah and Michael Jackson, the way people be talking about them and joking about their deaths, it's like,
Why are you doing that?
The lowest is what? 0.
this also reminds me of the times when Whitney Houston was always the butt of the jokes, always parody. Somebody was always impersonating her. Mad TV being one of those parody shows that always made fun of her and the way she spoke, the way she acted, because she was going through what she was going through. You know, we all laughed. People laughed at it. It's memes about it now, but this was a point in time where Whitney Houston could not catch a break. Like, it was terrible. Don't y'all know, in the middle of doing this edit, this Mariah Carey tweet went viral. Basically, somebody said about how she did that song Obsessed, which was a big hit. I remember that, which was her diss towards Eminem. And you can see it went viral. But then that made a lot of Eminem fans retaliate. And it was this Eminem versus Mariah Carey stands going back and forth and da-da-da-da. I'm just like, you see, I don't do these videos for nothing. This just went viral. And you look through the comments and the replies, it's Eminem fans versus Mariah Carey fans, and they going back and forth. And, oh, she's not relevant. She's only relevant during Christmas, and oh, Eminem sold more to her. It's just like, I don't do these videos for no reason. Y'all realize this music industry, how much they gotta do. Sometimes I go back on YouTube and I watch these like behind the scenes specials and these MTV Diary specials, and you see that was just a little snippet of what these artists have to go through. Being an artist is a 24/7 job. Even on their off days, they still gotta do this, do an interview, go in the studio, do that. Like, really does it art, especially when you reach their levels of success. Especially in like when it was in a prime and everything. Now Mariah Carey's just chilling. She could just do whatever, sip champagne in the jacuzzi while listening to her music. But back then in their primes, all the stress that comes along with the success, nobody really talks about it. They do these specials, but that's not even a smidget of what they had to go through when they reach that level of success. Oh, this is just me giving Whitney and Mariah their respect they deserve as two legends, two icons, two pioneers, the blueprints when it comes to vocal ability, singing ability. And even though they both did their thing where they had like little dances and stuff, like when it comes to performance, most of the songs didn't require no 8-count choreography. But their voice was enough. They go on stage, they sing, their voice was the show. They didn't need the extra dramatics, Their voice was the show. They wanted to do something a little different, a little this, a little that adds on to it. But when you went to a Mariah Carey concert, Whitney Houston concert, Whitney Houston Mariah Carey tour, you went for their voices, not for a spectacle. And that's just a testament to their singing ability, their vocal ability, their talent, their natural born talent. And even going back to Mariah Carey, where it's like, I'm talking about the memes, around that, when it gets September, October, there's this meme about like, oh, Mariah Carey, she's defrosting for Christmas time. Because let's talk about that too. Did you really have a great holiday season if you didn't hear All I Want for Christmas Is You? Was your holiday season really all that if you didn't hear that song at least once? The fact that Mariah Carey has a song, 25 years later, that's like synonymous with Christmas. You go into the mall, shopping stores, on TV, or just in general, when it gets to a certain time, you're going to hear that song. Even if you don't like it, even if it's annoying to you, you hear it, you're going to hear that song. That's just how, and I feel like that's something Mariah Carey did for fun. Holiday season, what was it, 1994? I think she did that song, 1995. And look, 25 years later, all these years later, that song is, and this is going along with like those old songs from the 40s and 50s. I'm dreaming of a wait. Like, Jingle Bells and Here Comes Santa Claus, Here Comes, like all those different types of songs. Like her song from the 90s is right up there with those in terms of popularity. Like I said, Mariah Carey is not to be played with. Like, she's not. Even Whitney Houston, I remember Whitney Houston had a Christmas album, and her songs with holidays and everything, like it's the equivalent of like when Michael Jackson did Thriller. You're not gonna go through Halloween or like Halloween season without hearing his song Thriller. And for a fun throwback, y'all remember when Mariah Carey guest starred on The Proud Family? Now, The Proud Family is one of my favorite shows, one of my favorite cartoons of all time, and this is one of those memorable episodes that's like ingrained. And let's talk about how they made the character look just like her. Just like her. And this episode was when her monkey got sick and it got switched with Oscars and all of that, but just reminiscing on her impact, even in cartoon form. Like, come on. And even after Whitney Houston's death, and do y'all believe it's been 10 years since Whitney Houston passed? Like, time is not flying, but it is, because it's already been 10 years since Whitney Houston's passed. Like, wow. Like, and just seeing interviews of like Mariah Carey reflecting on their friendship and how, like, you know, when they first met, they were like, but they realized like they instantly got along.
You know, who knew that we would get along? I mean, people didn't know. You never know when you meet somebody who you're gonna click with. And we got along so well. I would wait for the moments to be with Whitney. Like, and even toward the end, we saw each other, and you know, God bless her. I miss her. I love her. And
like all this drama and the feuds and all the debates that even some of their fans still have today, I'm just like, it's unnecessary. It's pointless. Why are y'all wasting your time? Like, y'all discussing Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston, like, why? Like I said, it's not the same, but it is. It's like when I see Michael Jackson and Janet Jackson fans fighting against each other, I'm like, what's going on? There's no need for it. This is Whitney Houston. This is Mariah Carey. What are y'all debating? Now, I know people have their favorites, and, you know, I call it vocal coach Twitter. And, you know, like the vocal coaches, that's, oh, Mariah Carey's A5 was better. Whitney hit a G flat, and it wasn't that good. And, oh, her melisma and her range and, you know, all of that, you know, the technicalities of it. But I'm like, at the end of the day, they were both legends. They still are legends. They're both icons. And there's no need for this debate. And even like I noticed, you know, as the years go on, people have these discussions and debates and discourses. Who's the better vocalist? I even seen recently there was a Twitter debate between Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston, Adele, and Beyonce. Who was the worst vocalist of them all? And people was going back and forth. I'm just like, really? Really?
Oh my God.
So, to wrap it all up, this was just me giving Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston a fresh bouquet of flowers. Because I feel like over the years, especially the last decade, they've been subject to a lot of nastiness and, you know, headlines and everything like that. Oh, they're not in their prime like they used to be when they was getting all this praise and accolades and success and the Grammys and the awards. And over time, you know, even though they are Mariah Carey, they are Whitney Houston, you start to feel like, man, you know, people don't even get to the psychology of these artists when it comes to like how one day, 1 year, 1 decade you could be at the top. I know Mariah Carey was it Mariah Carey like the top artist of the 90s when it came to like sales and #1 hits? And that's another thing. Mariah Carey got like 20 #1 hits. Whitney Houston is not far behind. It's like 1 year you could be at the top, and then 5 years later you're like, you know? That's not their case, but I feel like there's been this thing where it's like disrespecting these legends, these icons, and then when they unfortunately pass away, it's, oh my God, but I'm like, when they was alive, you was joking about them on Twitter, you was making memes and sharing memes and liking memes about them, and not the funny memes, like the dark humor memes, you know? So it's like, this is just me appreciating Mariah Carey when you said, and I did a video about Mariah Carey not too long ago. I'll put it up here. And I did a video about Whitney Houston not too long ago. I'm gonna leave it up here too. And another thing I want to talk about before I end is, y'all notice like Whitney Houston's estate is a little, look out for that video. That video is definitely coming. I feel like Whitney Houston's estate they don't have her best interests, because the things I'm seeing, the things they have did. Y'all remember the hologram? Y'all remember? Yeah, look out for that video. It's definitely coming. Whitney Houston's estate is a little questionable. Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey and the success, they are legendary. They are iconic. They are pioneers. They both made history. They're both in the Guinness Book of World Records. And they both had legendary careers that can never be taken away from them. And I'm glad that in some moment of time, some part of history, they were able to connect and build a friendship, work together, create that song together. And that's another part of history. And I think it either got nominated and won an Oscar. Like, I'm glad that they got to meet, and we could always look back at the footage and listen back to that song. Two of the top artists in history got together to make a song where it's like, when they first came out, Mariah Carey first came out, Whitney Houston had already been out for a while. There was this imaginary beef and feud, and both of them didn't know how to feel about each other. And then they finally got together and they made history. They made magic. And I'm glad that we could always look back on that.
And we had mapped out stuff, and she came in and she did her thing. And then we kind of played off each other at the end of the song, you know, and made it that way.
Well, you know what? Just listening to you all, I mean, really, I look at the both of you and I think, gift.
That only God can give.
Only God can.
I did videos about Mariah separately. I did videos about Whitney separately. And just seeing that little recent little debate that was in my comment section, I was like, it's about time I talk about them together and like this feud that they fans, for some reason, some of their fans still have this feud to this day. I'm like, they be going in on each other. And I'm like, it's unnecessary, And I get it, like this thing with the stands where it's like, this one artist that's like the enemy, and you gotta say go back and forth, and like that whole Nicki Minaj, Cardi B mentality thing with the fans. But it's like, with Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston, no, cut that out. There's no need for that. Not when you had careers as legendary as this. I want to know, what do y'all think about this? What are y'all opinion on the Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston feud and everything from back then to now, and how people are still trying to compare them and everything like that? Today, even in 2022, fans still be going at it, comparing them and who's better. And to end this on a more fun note, what are your favorite Mariah Carey songs? What are your favorite Whitney Houston songs? Favorite album of theirs? Like, let me know down below. I gotta say, to end this, my favorite Whitney Houston album has to be, I gotta say, I'm Your Baby Tonight. That's my favorite album of hers. And another thing I want to add in real quick is, I'm like, Whitney Houston, her singles were great, but y'all ever listen to some of Whitney Houston's album cuts? Like the songs that weren't released as singles from her albums? My favorite Mariah Carey album has to be Butterfly. Butterfly. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's my favorite Mariah Carey album. What are y'all's from each of them? Let me know down below. I can't wait to get this discussion started. This should be a really interesting discussion. I can't wait to read the comments, interact with y'all. And let's get this discussion started. And please, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Thank you for watching and listening. I'll see y'all in the next video.